Hello, and welcome to Living Beyond Limits. We are a part of Centers for Spiritual Living, and I am Reverend Jennifer Spear, and I am so glad to see you here with us today. So glad that you have joined us for this online service. Normally, when we meet together on Sunday mornings, one of the first things that we do is say good morning to the people that are sitting near us. And what really happens is it turns into a big love fest of people loving each other up and hugging each other and just sending that great energy to each other. And so what I invite you to do right now, since we aren't physically together, is just to close your eyes for a moment and to imagine some of those people that sit around you. And if you don't normally attend our services, to just hold in your mind's eye some of the people that you love and care about. And now imagine that you are sending them your love, wrapping them in your love, seeing them in all of their beauty, in all of their glory, in all of their perfection and wholeness. Knowing that as you do that, you are lifting them and that you are sending them a blessing. And to know also that as you are doing that for someone, there is someone else who is watching this video who is most likely doing the same thing for you, lifting you up in their love and sending you that blessing. How wonderful it is to get to participate in that, even though we aren't connected. We are connected, but even though we aren't in each other's presence physically. And so as we begin this service this morning, I invite our practitioner, Barbara Conant, to come forward, and she's going to do an evocation for us as we evoke an awareness of the presence of Spirit that is always right where we are. And she'll be doing a contemplative reading for us. And so I invite you just to begin to settle in to yourself, into that quiet space within you, the place of stillness, the place of heart, the place of spirit where you can feel your own divine nature and you can sense the presence of the Infinite One.
As I turn within, I take this moment in time to invite you to join me in moving into that center, within that sacred space where we know that there is light and love and our own divine presence. And here in the quietness and peace of this divine center within, I know there is one power, and I realize this power as the love that is within and all around me. I am one with the infinite presence of love and the creative design of life, and know this to be true for all people. I open my heart and mind to the truth of life this day, knowing the divine is expressing itself right here and right now. As I awaken to the goodness of life, I experience it as joy, and I express it as love. I bless our time together, in which we celebrate the good and love that we are. And I know that Reverend Jennifer, her message blesses us, and we hear all that we need to hear to inspire us to be a better person, a kinder person throughout the week. I'm grateful for Living Beyond Limits this day and all the good that it brings to us and those around us. And so it is. Hello, everyone. My reading today is from 365 Days of Richer Living by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker. And it comes from the reading, I Am Held in the Goodness of God. I know that my good is at hand. I see this good in persons and places and things. Nothing but good can go from me, and nothing but good can return to me. There is nothing but kindness, nothing but love. My whole inner being responds to this goodness, and I recognize it everywhere. Feeling love everywhere, seeing it everywhere, I am enveloped in it. And even as I draw this goodness and kindness to me and become saturated with it, it flows out in every direction, blessing everyone it touches, everything it touches, helping everyone and bringing wholeness and happiness to me and to all people. In joy, I wake to every new day. In love, I rest in the eternal goodness, and so this love overflows with the acknowledgement of good, love, and kindness to myself and others. And so it is.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. And so I'd like to share with you our mission statement right now. So if you know it, you can join me in saying it. And if it's new to you, I invite you just to take this in. It goes like this. We are a sanctuary where people can discover and reveal the presence of God within their own being and experience their oneness with all life. Through the realization of this inner presence of love and peace, we become a beneficial presence in the world. Through the realization of this inner presence of love and peace, we give way to the evolutionary impulse of the divine and become a beneficial presence in the world. And so that's what we are up to here at Living Beyond Limits, is we are giving ourselves the opportunity to awaken to that divine presence that is everywhere, that presence that fills our lives, and that presence that is the very fabric of our spirit, that is the very essence of our own divine being. Because when we awaken to that fact and remember that in our daily lives, then we have access to all of those qualities and characteristics of spirit. When we know that that presence already lives within us and expresses as peace and wholeness and love and good, then regardless of what's going on around us, what's happening in the world, we can still be in peace and love and in our own wholeness. And as we can stand in that, we can bring that to the world, and then we act as a healing presence in this world. When we can bring peace to a situation that is not peaceful, when we can bring love to a situation that is not loving, when we can stand in our own wholeness and our own power when things are chaotic around us. And as we do that, we do give way to that presence of the divine in an even greater way, and we become a beneficial presence everywhere we go, to all those around us and to ourselves in our own lives. And so I thank every single one of you for saying yes to the call of your own spirit, to be walking this path and to be bringing the divine into this world in a way that is healing and in a way that is beautiful. Thank you for that. Have you noticed lately when you go out in the world that people seem to have a really short fuse? that people seem to get frustrated or irritated or angry just at the drop of a hat, that people are being short and snappy with people, that people are cutting other people off while they're driving, that people are driving really aggressively right now? And do you ever feel lately kind of grumpy, kind of crabby, maybe a little bit stressed out and like you're off your game a little bit? You know, lots of people are worried right now. People are worried about their jobs and when they're going to go back to work. People are worried about money. People are worried about the economy. People are worried about COVID-19. And not just are people worried, but also the normal outlets that we have to blow off some steam and to get rid of some of that frustration, as well as the normal outlets that we have for enjoying ourselves and filling back up with all those good feelings, a lot of those outlets have been diminished. Been diminished because businesses are closed and because we've been restricted. And not just that, but people are kind of afraid. They're afraid because they don't know what's going to happen. And so the thing is, we live in this collective field of consciousness. We live in this collective energetic field of feeling and of thought of the people around us. And not just this field of the thought of the people that are around us, but this collective consciousness of living in the state of California, of living in the United States and what that collective consciousness is around this country. And not just that, but we live in this collective consciousness of the entire world. And what that means then is that we are actually affected by that. That we actually, on some unconscious level, we feel that and we sense that and we're affected by all of that thought and all of that energy and all of that feeling. So we're living in this collective field right now that feels like a field of stress and angst. And because this world is affected by this pandemic and by social unrest that's really happening across the entire world, we all kind of feel that. One of my friends said to me the other day, leaving her house is like stepping into a cortisol cloud because everybody just feels kind of stressed out. And so not just that, but we have stressors in our own individual lives of things that are going on. So we have the stressors in our lives and then this collective stress that's kind of on top of that magnifies it. These stressors that feel like angst and fear. I know for me, as we move through these times, what I really want is just to have a sense of ease and a sense of well-being and a sense of peace. And my guess is that you want the same exact thing. And not just do we want to feel peaceful and at ease and have a sense of well-being, but because you and I are consciously walking this spiritual path, we actually also want to be living in alignment with our spirit, living in alignment with our own divine nature. Because when we live from our divine nature, and when we live in alignment with our own spirits, then we feel the most satisfied and we have the greatest sense of well-being when we're living from that place. And so I think the first thing that we need to do while we're moving through this time is to remember that God is always right where we are. That no matter what is going on, no matter what we're going through, no matter what is happening in the world, the presence of the infinite intelligence of this entire universe is right where we are. That intelligence that knows how to turn a tomato seed into a tomato plant, that intelligence that lives inside of your body that knows how to turn your breakfast into bones and muscle and tissue, that intelligence that knows how to differentiate those cells when you came into being a human being to make hair and fingernails and liver and organs and your whole body, that intelligence is always right where you are. And to know that that presence is leading you and guiding you and making the way open before you and taking you to your best good. To tell yourself and to remember that the peace that God is right where you are. that the good of the universe is right where you are, and that good is the very nature of your life. To remember that love is ever present, regardless of what's happening, always present within you and around you, because that is the nature of the divine itself. And so in the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes says, remember, God is the silent power behind all things, always ready to pour into our experience that which we need. We must have a receptive, positive faith in the evidence of things not seen with the physical eye, but which are eternal in the heavens. That means the peace and the love and the wholeness and the power and the good are ever present and available. He goes on to say, all is mind, all is consciousness, is what we would say today. All is consciousness, and we must provide a receptive avenue for it as it passes out through us into the outer expression of our affairs. So that means all that you could possibly need is already available in potential, but it takes you knowing it. It takes you looking for it. It takes you being open to it. We have to create a space within ourselves for that to come forward. And so the salon that I have been working in for the past 10 years is going to close next week. The owner decided that as we've been closed for COVID-19 that she doesn't want to reopen, which means that I need to find a new place to work while salons are closed. And so I've been a little bit stressed out this week, and in turn I've been a little bit grumpy this week. But what I am being called to do is to remember and to remind myself when I start telling myself a story about how hard this is going to be, that God is always for me, that life is always for me. And then to rest in that. And then to allow the wisdom of the cosmos that already exists within me to guide me to that perfect place, knowing that that is what is happening. To allow the peace that God is to fill me, even now before I have the answer. To know that the opulence of the universe is the very foundation of my life. To remember, I don't have to know how this is going to unfold. My job is to know the what. And so I have spent some time this week writing about the what I want it to be like, what I want it to feel like, how I'm going to feel once I'm in this fabulous salon that is peaceful and easy to be in, and pretty and clean and welcoming to my clients, and all those details about what I want it to be. My job is to know the what, for God to know the how, and then for me to just take the steps out and go and look. And so I'm doing that today. I'm going to look at 2 different salons today. And I feel so much more peaceful about it than I did when I first found out. And so then as we move through these times where the world seems to be in angst and in fear, the second thing that we are being called to do is to bring forward more love. And that love expresses as kindness. It expresses as compassion and as care, as gentleness. And so the title of my talk today is Kindness as a Spiritual Practice. And I'm talking about that part of walking this spiritual path for us on this path we are on is to bring the presence of love into this world in a greater way. To be conduits for that love of the divine for humanity. So I'm talking about expressing that love of God and bringing it into the world. In fact, Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of this philosophy, said, love is the very reason for our being. And so kindness and care and compassion are one of the ways, or some of the ways, that we bring that love forward into the world. We are being called to bring that kindness and that care and that compassion forward towards others in this world and toward ourselves. The Dalai Lama says, "My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness." That's what's being asked for. And so when we let go of our harsh judgments of other people or of ourselves, what happens is compassion is the natural result. Compassion is the natural place that we go once we let go of that judgment. And when I look up the word compassion, it is actually defined as to feel with the other. Not to feel for the other, because when we feel for the other, we create a hierarchy. We are up here and we feel sorry for this person down here. But when we feel with, we meet that person in our humanity and in their humanity. And we meet each other in that place of recognizing the human condition can be very challenging at times. And coming to that with compassion and an open heart and care. There's a quote from Lucius Annius Seneca, who was a Roman Stoic philosopher, died in the year 65 of the Common Era, so that was a long time ago. He said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." That was a long time ago that was recognized. So that opportunity for kindness is present even when that person in front of you is grouchy or snappy or has a short fuse. That kindness comes from our spirit. That kindness comes from the divine and our own divine nature. That kindness comes from choosing love and choosing compassion. It takes making that choice, and it actually takes making that choice beforehand so that when you find yourself in the person that's being in front of the person that's being snappy with you, you can do that. And sometimes it seems easier to actually have compassion for the other person than it does for ourselves. Because sometimes we're able to tell ourselves, I don't really know what that person is going through, but something, and just knowing that allows our hearts to open. Or sometimes we can see that that person is having a really hard time, and therefore we meet them where they are with an open heart. Christopher Germer said, self-compassion is simply giving the same kindness to ourselves that we would give to others. Sometimes we don't give ourselves a break. Sometimes we don't give ourselves that kind of care and compassion when we both most need it. That when we're going through something difficult, instead we give ourselves a hard time. When things aren't going well, when we're challenged, when we're snappy, when we're off our game, when we're grumpy, we give ourselves a hard time instead of meeting ourselves with compassion and recognizing this too is part of the human condition, and everybody feels this way sometimes. Everybody gets snappy sometimes, and have compassion for the human condition. Instead, we criticize ourselves and we expect perfection from ourselves. And so on our Zoom meeting this week, we asked some questions, and one of those questions that we asked was, what do you do to bring love and kindness to this world? And people shared answers like, I think before I speak. I talk with people with an open heart. I tell people I appreciate you. I act instead of react. I speak with a loving heart. All of that takes mindfulness. All of that takes awareness it takes intention. Intention to act that way ahead of time, before it happens. And when we make that intention to practice love and kindness and compassion, it's kind of like training wheels. That intention is like training wheels, and it allows us to do it, to ride the bike, to be compassionate, because we've set that intention. And then, as you know, with a bicycle, the longer you have the training wheels, then you get the knack of it, and then you no longer need them. Then we no longer have to consciously have that intention. It just becomes a part of our makeup. Kindness for others and kindness for ourselves. And so I'd love to share a story with you about kindness. And it goes like this. I'm a bit of a town mouse, but I spent a summer in the country with relatives as a teenager. Very rural, with miles between some houses. I love long walks, and one sunny day I decided to take a very nice one. There was this big road that led around the area in a circle. Looked like a couple of hours of strolling. This was before smartphones, so I couldn't gauge the distance perfectly, but I was convinced that I could handle it. I grabbed a soda and a freshly charged MP3 player and set out in the afternoon, convinced I would be back by dinner. I'd made a bad misjudgment of scale. After several hours of walking, I was nowhere near home. My phone had no signal. Dumbass city slicker me hadn't even considered that. There were no street lights and no cars. It was getting dark, and I could barely see the road beneath my feet. Chances of a Leatherface attack had gone up by about 100%. Houses were extremely far apart, too. I passed one and knocked on the door, but no one was home. I seriously debated going to sleep on their porch and hoping someone would eventually turn up. But in the end, I just kept walking. Finally, I found a house with a light on. I banged on the door, and a middle-aged woman answered. The first words out of her mouth were straight up to ask if I was there to rob her. Refreshingly direct, really. I assured her I was harmless and explained my situation. Her demeanor flipped 100% from suspicious to charitable. I had just hoped to use her phone, but instead she insisted on driving me home herself, and also on feeding me. The route she took continued around the loop, and I realized A, I had barely made it halfway, and B, hers was the last house for a very long while, as things got more woodsy after that. If she hadn't helped me, I would have been walking all night through the woods. That's what I'm talking about. Kindness. Kindness to others. Treating ourselves with that same kind of kindness. And so, in our Zoom class, the second question that we asked is, how do you practice love and kindness with yourself? And we heard answers like, laugh at myself. To tell myself that I am not my mistakes. I am not the decision to take this walk that was way longer than I thought. To use affirmations. To talk with my friends when I'm stuck so they can help me find my way through it. To call a practitioner and ask for prayer. To listen to music that helps lift my mood. To tell myself I love you. To meditate, to get out of my own head and my own repetitive thinking and my fear so that I can have a different perspective and I can be in peace. So how do you practice love and kindness with yourself? I invite you to think about that and to write it down. And how do you practice love and kindness in the world? What do you do to take good care of yourself? And I invite you also to ask yourself, what do I need? And when you answer that question, what do I need, and to listen within, that is one of the things that will allow you to take really good care of yourself. And so I would like to invite you to join me in a meditation right now. that is actually on compassion. It's called the heart meditation. And so I invite you just to close your eyes and to sit comfortably with your spine straight and your chest open. And bring your attention to the middle of your chest. Imagine your heart center to be a window into the vastness of your true nature. And now with your in-breath, absorb whatever is before you. Objects, sounds, thoughts and feelings. Bring them all into formlessness so that they can dissolve into silence and into space. And with your out-breath, breathe out a blessing out of formlessness back into the world of form. And so again, breathe in and absorb whatever is before you. Objects, sounds, thoughts, and feelings. Bring them all home into formlessness, so that they dissolve into silence, into space. And with the out-breath, breathe out a wave of blessing out of formlessness back into the world of form. And just continue with this for a moment. With the in-breath, embracing everything that arises and welcoming it home to its source. And with the out-breath, sending out waves of blessing. And now let that expand to include the thoughts and feelings of those around you. Breathing in and welcoming it home into its source. And with the out-breath, sending out waves of blessing. And finally, let this expand to include all thoughts and all feelings of all sentient beings, bringing them home into formlessness, where they dissolve into silence, and breathing out a wave of blessing out of formlessness back into the world of form. And so I invite you to open your eyes. And so my invitation to you this week is to remember that infinite presence is always right at the center of your life. To remember that God is the silent power that is behind all things, and that silent power is leading you and guiding you and unfolding the good that you desire into your life. To know that and to lean into that and to rest in that. To trust that presence is leading the way, opening the way, and bringing you everything you need. And 2, to have compassion for yourself. To remember and tell yourself this time is stressful. To be kind to yourself and treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. And to have compassion for other people. To know, too, that they are going through stuff in their own lives. And to be kind and to be love. And as we do that, we will have a greater sense of well-being. We will feel like we are living in alignment with our spirit. We will be experiencing our own spirit to a greater degree. We will have a greater sense of well-being. And you will be being a beneficial presence in this world. Because kindness is a spiritual practice. And so blessings to you this week, and blessings to you on this spiritual path, and blessings to you in bringing your own spirit into this world in a way that is so beautiful and so healing, uplifting, and just beautiful. So blessings to you. And so I invite you right now to join me in an affirmative prayer. And so I just breathe into that presence that is so palpable right here. That presence that is a presence of absolute knowingness, consciousness, that is intelligence and love and good without bound. That one that is the maintainer and sustainer of all life, that which lifts me and carries me and buoys me. And I recognize right now that that presence is right where every single person is. Every person that is listening to this is surrounded and immersed in that one. That every person across this planet walks in that presence. That presence fills every city and every country and every continent and every place. And so right now that presence is making itself known in the hearts and the minds and the lives of each and every single individual. For as we ask, the gift has already been made. And in our asking, we open ourselves to the solution, to the answer, to the peace, to the good that we're seeking. And that good is unfolding itself as the answer to that prayer, the answer to the question, the solution to the problem. For all is already held in this infinite presence. And we live and move and have our beingness in this presence. And so that good naturally unfolds itself. For God could never withhold from itself. And we are a part of that one. And so I just recognize that all the good is available, and I say yes to it for myself. And I invite you to say yes to it for yourself in your own life. And out pours a blessing. And so how grateful I am to know this, to be able to see and sense this for this entire world and every person on this planet, every person that is a part of this family of humanity. That something magnificent and healing and beautiful is unfolding itself right now in the lives of each of us. And so with gratitude for that, I simply release this prayer in absolute trust and faith, recognizing that it is simply the nature of life. And so I let this go, and I rest in acceptance, and I say, and so it is. And so thank you very much for being here with us today. I'm so glad that you joined us. I want to give you a couple of invitations. One is that we are doing coffee and donuts at Hartwell Park on Thursday mornings at 10:30. We are having room for 10 people, so if you would like to come and join us for that, which we would love to have you. We did it last week, and it was super fun. You bring the coffee and bring a chair, bring coffee for yourself and bring a chair for yourself, and we will supply the donuts, and we spend an hour and a half chatting and visiting and sitting in the shade at the park, and bring a mask, and we're physically distancing but getting to be connected heart to heart, and we'd love to have you there. If you're interested, please email me or text me or call me. Email me at livingbeyondlimitscsl@gmail.com. We are also having our Thursday evening Zoom call, Continuing Connection and Spiritual Practice. We would love to have you join us for that. You will be receiving an email with that code and the invitation on Thursdays, because that's Thursday night. If you haven't been on that and we don't have your email address and you'd like to join us, email me at that same email address and we will make sure that you get on that mailing list. I'd like to thank you for your ongoing and continued support of Living Beyond Limits. It is allowing us to keep our doors open and do these services and be ready to go back to being together when the time comes. And it's also allowing us to continue to pay our sound tech and our child care provider, because I feel like it is our responsibility and joy to actually continue to support them as long as we are in the position to do that. So thank you for your support. It's enabling to do that. We actually sent a check out to the musicians who had been booked with us for the last 2 months because their work has been severely cut also. So thank you for your support in allowing us to do that. We are still continuing to do our ministry of prayer. If you have a prayer request, you can email or text that to Barbara Conant or email it to me at that address, and I will get it to her, and she will send it out to the practitioners and to me. We have our prayer shawl ministry. We have lots of prayer shawls, so if you would like to be wrapped in that energy of prayer or know somebody else that would be like to be wrapped in that energy of prayer, call Barbara or me, email, whatever, get a hold of one of us, and we will make sure you get that. It'll be prayed over for the specific need that you want, and then you can gift that to that person. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Living Beyond Limits, which creates a one-click for you to watch the video. And also, we are going to be doing another question and answers in the Science of Mind with the 2 Revs. So if you have any questions that you would like to have answered about the philosophy, what we believe, what we teach, how to apply it to your life, please email me those questions or text them to me, and we will get them on the list of questions that we're going to answer. And so have a lovely week.